Ever since the latest balance patch hit, this is the matchup that I've been thinking of. Not just the Terran versus Zerg, but these two players specifically. Because spotting right here in the upper right-hand corner, we have the man addicted to command centers. And of course, they are now 300 minerals rather than 400. We're looking inside of the main base of ByuN. Now, a lot of Zerg players are avoiding playing late game. However, not this man right over here in the bottom left. Playing in blue, we have none other than Rogue. Rogue versus ByuN, and I had a quick look at some of the duration in this best of 3 series, especially game number 2, is extremely long. So I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down between these two, because of course we are very much so on unexplored territory, right? Like, we don't really know exactly how this new update to the latest balance patch will actually work out. So real quick, we had 5.0.16, that got a bunch of adjustments during the PTR. Then they basically just published it one day, and then since then they've been doing what they call hotfixes, where they basically still make follow-up patches, but it's still just titled 5.0.16. So what we are currently on is labeled 5.0.16b. Even though we never had an A, because that one never got a specific label. Anyways, it gets confusing. But these things right over here are now 300 minerals. There's a bunch of other changes as well, specifically to Protoss and a couple of small ones as well to Terran. Like, for example, the Ghost. Maybe I should have thought about that before I said small changes. The Ghost is now yet again 2 supplier rather than 3. Either way, the fact that the command centers are now cheaper is a very, very big deal. I have caught, especially ByuN, losing games in the past because he made too many command centers. This is almost like a bit of a running joke that's been ongoing for maybe a year and a half or so at this point in time, where ByuN quite literally makes 25 up to like 30 command centers in a macro game, and then runs out of minerals because there's nothing to mine anymore. It's a really odd situation where, I guess in theory, right, like a command center, now it being 300 minerals, you add an orbital command on top of it, is 450. In theory, you get your resources back if you mine with two full mules. However, if, well, the map has a finite number of resources, which of course it does, you do need to actually make sure that you can get value over time. And there have been a couple of really, really clumsy games by ByuN where he's essentially winning, but then he makes so many command centers that he's unable to remax. Now, I guess on this patch, it's going to be a little bit easier. It's going to be a little bit more straightforward to be making, well, 25 command centers or so, because you end up with a lot more minerals than you, well, normally would. I'm curious to see, though, whether or not Rogue is going to have a bit of a different approach. So Rogue really enjoys playing the late game in this matchup. He's very good. We've seen the, for example, the Mass Overseer style, but that's really not the only thing that he does. He's just a very well-rounded macro Zerg, and I'm curious to see how he is going to be approaching a patch like the one that we are currently on. Because the truth of the matter is that I have had many Zerg players reach out to me over the last couple of days, telling me that this matchup has become unplayable because Terrans just keep making command centers, and there's nothing you can really do about it. I don't know. We'll find out. Now, I will say that usually, whenever there is a new patch, there is always this knee-jerk reaction, right? Where initially maybe something appears to be too bad, or it doesn't really work out, and I want to give the 300 mineral command center a chance, but I do believe it's too much, man. I just don't see how it's going to be something that will stick around in the long run, but I guess we'll find out. It's a double factory build. Huh. So triple command center, double factory right here for ByuN. It's a little bit odd. Not usually what we see, especially from ByuN. He's pretty much always a bio Terran, but maybe because of the command center cost change, he can afford himself Terran Mech? I don't know. We'll find out. Now, the style that Rogue was going for in the past with the 50-odd Overseers that we did see him go for quite a bit is theoretically nerfed a little bit because changelings now deal splash damage to other changelings around them. Meaning that if there is indeed a swarm of changelings moving around the map, say there's like 20 of them in this little square, you attack one of them and they're basically contagious to all of the other changelings in proximity. So that's an addition to the patch as well that I think is a very specific nerf for Rogue, because not a lot of Zerg players really try to play that style. We're right away going deep into mech here. Look at that. So we're getting the Cyclone lock-on ability already. Rogue is trying to see if he can get a scout off. Overlord speed, of course, has been nerfed. He needs to see the second factory. This is already, okay, a little bit suspicious, though, when you don't see Yeah, the barracks a little bit closer by, but he did get a glimpse of the second factory. And really, the only thing it can be at this stage in the game is full-blown Terran Mech. Even if it's not, a Roach Warren is still a really good choice. Either way, first batch of Hellions has now arrived on the other side of the map, and I guess the way that Rogue is planning on fighting this command center style is by out-greeding the greed. He's just been holding down the drone button for the most part, already getting, yeah, close to 50 workers right now, which is quite a lot. Significantly ahead, of course, on the Terran. Keep in mind that Zergs do have that increased larva regen. That was the main thing that we assumed was gonna get nerfed. Instead, they decided to buff Terran and Protoss to try and counteract it, which is a very interesting approach. Just buff everything, make everything overpowered. Not a terrible idea. This move out, though, with the Hellions does appear to be a pretty terrible idea. Not really getting a ton of value. Okay. Yeah, the idea of buffing everything is something they've done, for example, in StarCraft Brood War, where effectively everything feels kind of broken, but because everything is kind of broken for all the races, it's kind of fine. Except for maybe scouts. I don't know. I don't know about that unit specifically, but it is a... In StarCraft 2, we've had more of like a balance in the sense that we nerf some and we buff some, but apparently we're doing, yeah, mostly just buffs as of late. It could certainly result in a very different game. It's a good time, though, to be a StarCraft fan. We're gonna go into the good old Infernal Pre-Igniter. So, yeah, we've got our first armory as well. We may actually stick around on just one armory. I think the idea is that we just make a gajillion Cyclones. I think that's the plan. We just keep making Cyclone after Cyclone after Cyclone. I really haven't seen Terran Mech in pretty much all of 2026. It was popular last year. Remember the EWC period when the Cyclone had a bug? So there was a lock-on bug on the Cyclone that allowed it to lock on more frequently than its tooltip implied. And that turned out to be, yeah, at least a reason to still be playing Terran Mech. Now, they've, of course, fixed it. They fixed it after the tournament. And since then, Terran Mech really has fallen off. But apparently, ByuN once more believes that this may be the way forward. He's going double upgrades here. We've got ourselves Roach Speed coming in as well. Baneling Nest. So it's going to be just good old Ravager-Ling Bane here for the most part. Some Roaches as well for support, but not really the main unit that he'll be aiming for. It's a very mid-game focused unit composition, though. Alternatively for Zerg, you can go into Hive. Get things like, for example, Vipers. Now, Vipers, of course, can once more abduct sieged-up tanks, making them quite a bit better, because usually there will be a moment where Terran is going to turn all of those factories with tech labs into siege tank production. And that is going to be right about right now. Makes sense. He sees the number of Roaches and Zerglings at this point, right? You gotta have at least a little bit of a backbone, because this army is really good at kiting backwards. But at some point, if you get, well, pushed all the way back, you have nowhere to run. Need to be a little bit careful here as the Terran that you, at the very least, have a way to continue microing this type of force. Baneling Speed as well. No Hive. Second armory. So we will be going into the attack upgrades as well. The reason he's prioritizing armor is because the lock-on ability of the Cyclone is the thing that deals the majority of the damage right now. And that's considered spell damage. And spell damage in StarCraft 2 does not benefit from attack upgrades. So ByuN only prioritizing the armor for the time being. But since we're now going into siege tanks, he's also firing up a second armory. New command center, though, already finishing up. And I find this all so curious, right? So, as we have this dance happening, wait a second, Rogue trying to see if he can get the wrap around. Okay, decent. He's going to try and see if he can cut off the retreat path right now. More and more reinforcements, though, showing up, and those Blue Flame Hellions are having a grand old time. Upgrades finish up right after the engagement. Centrifugal Hooks not yet done. Corrosive Balls will be dodged. I don't think ByuN can really push too deep, though. The creep is dangerous. Can't just keep scanning. There's an additional 3 factories now added into the mix. One thing I find very ironic with the latest patch is that they reduced the starter work account from 12 to 8 to try and slow down the early game. But then at the same time, they've increased the speed of everything else in the early game. So we're not even 10 minutes in. Players are already getting to fully maxed out states right now. I mean, obviously, they still have a little bit of supply to go, but we're already headed into the late game now. Early game has been pretty much entirely skipped because, well, neither player really feels comfortable playing against the opponent's eco boosts, right? Rogue feels like he needs to be greedy because his opponent can have cheap command centers. ByuN feels like he can't be aggressive. Ooh, this is a big catch right over here in the middle of the map. ByuN sleeping on the job, busy microing the army on the right side. Loses a pretty big chunk of his army. But ByuN likewise doesn't really want to be aggressive in the early game because of the larva spawn buff. So there's a bit of irony there. It's a bit of a double standard, right? Like we get this slower start to the game while simultaneously speeding up everything else. I don't really see the logic in it, but it's an interesting approach for sure. Because of the command centers though, and because of the planetary fortresses, so these are 100 minerals more expensive now. Quite a pricey thing to be adding into the mix. But because of all of this, yeah, ByuN is gonna be safe for now, even though he does get pushed back. Effectively, as soon as Rogue gets within range of the siege tanks and the planetaries, he has to back off, and as soon as ByuN gets within range of the creep, he needs to play this a lot more cautiously. So we get this very interesting tug of war, but ultimately what both players are doing is just making a ton of units. Already though, you can see the economy reflected right now for ByuN. Look at the bottom of your screen. He's now approaching a 200 supply for the very first time in his match. He's got 93 SCVs. Obviously, they're, well, maybe not cheaper directly themselves, but they're a little bit easier to pump out because of the CC change. He's already going into 2 additional starports. ByuN is cruising right now. I really expected, looking at the bottom of the screen, for the game to be a little bit more even, but the lock-ons have been very effective. He did get a hatchery, of course, as well. Yeah. This is kind of a sick strat. So wait, what are the starports for? Ah, it's reactors. I thought for a moment we're gonna go battle cruisers. And here we go. Command center enjoyers are eating good this week. We have 4 of them added onto the production tab here. In the meantime, adrenal glands coming up for the Zerg. Greater Spire also added into the mix. Can we really go into Brute Lords here? I don't know, man. I feel like Brute Lords are a very shaky choice. Just across the board. 5th command center, by the way, added as well. Yo, he's just adding more and more command centers now. Okay. Yeah, the main problem that ByuN is soon going to run into is that he doesn't have enough real estate. Like, he needs more room. He needs more land in order to be putting down this. Did he just add 2 more? Oh my god. Yeah, okay. 12 minutes in, we have 8 command centers on the production tab. Now, we do have some nice neuroparasites. Fungal as well from the low ground. ByuN, again, man, I brought this up earlier. You need to be careful that you now do not die to the counterattack. Because ByuN is supposed to have several thousand minerals available right now, well, to make army with. Now, he's going to be fine for the time being. But it's so silly when you run out of cash because you've been making too many command centers. You'll be fine for now, though. 5 Brute Lords coming up. It's not really that much. I think the Cyclones are going to be good enough. He has a lot of starports as well, right? So, actually, those were the first 2. Huh. But he can definitely make some transitions here as well towards Vikings. Vikings, Thors, siege tanks, that sort of thing. Not a bad choice as soon as he sees the roots. Some of them are already done. Yep, I think he spotted it. Did he see the Greater Spire? Where is it? No, he didn't see the Greater Spire, but he must have noticed the units, because obviously he's got a lot of orbital commands, so the man can scan whenever he wants to. So what do you do right now as the Zerg? I'm not sure. I think Zergling run-bys are a great choice. The Brute Lords are scary, though. Fungal growth over there is pretty dang good, making it difficult, but he's also simultaneously opening up supply so the Terran player can rebuild more and more mech units. Actual units that can deal with the Brute Lords is not a bad choice. I wonder if you go 11 factories here, man. When you have a lot of money, you may as well. Now, one thing to note is that the amount of gas available in a refinery has been reduced. So it used to be 2250 per refinery. Right now, we're down to 2000. There was a little bit of a run-by over here, killing 10 drones, and a bunch of SCVs are dying as well, but all of that is kind of irrelevant. The main thing we will have to pay attention to is the main fight. ByuN is reinforcing this about as quick as a Zerg player can. Nice lock-ons over there with the Cyclones. I would love to see ByuN add in some attack upgrades for the Vikings. It's the main thing we're missing. One of the armories is going to be on idle since we got the +3 armor anyways. Should certainly be going into the +1 air weapons. One pesky Zergling here trying its absolute best to deny all of this, but if that was what Rogue had been cooking up this entire time, it seemed entirely unimpressive. So Rogue's economy has been small, at least relative to the Terrans. His upgrades are decent, but not amazing. It kind of felt like we had a strange Brute Lord timing attack type of situation. And ByuN didn't see them in time, really, but he still dealt with it just fine. Actually, I think he saw them in time, but he didn't really have a chance to make any more units against them because he was already at 200. We're going smart servos. There's the +1 air weapons. Huge Zergling counterattack. Planetary fortress in the choke points as well. I kind of love it. Well, the Zergling counterattack is nice, but it's not really dealing that much damage. Actually, I think ByuN will welcome a few SCV losses at this point, so he doesn't have to kill his own units and open up more supply. Yeah, this seems extremely comfortable for ByuN. Rogue is right now switching gears. We're going into additional drones here. So despite the fact that he already was sitting at a healthy 80, he now realizes that this is a big macro game. ByuN, of course, had more than 300 minerals available, so he's adding on more CCs. What do you do with all these command centers? Like, how many do you actually want? According to ByuN, you want about 25. Is that actually the amount you want, though? Because we already have 10 orbitals, 4 planetaries. He's gonna add on more. I think about 10 to 15 or so seems about right. Just so you can effectively disable the Fog of War with scans. You can tell the Fog of War to fog off. More Cyclones joining in. Drilling Claws coming up as well for Widow Mines. Well, I thought game number 2 was a long one, but maybe I mistake game 1 for game 2? I don't know. But this is already a proper macro game. And ByuN appears to be absolutely dominating it. Yeah. There's not even any ghosts yet. Right? Ghosts are arguably the most busted unit now in the late game for Terran. But he's not making any of them. Now, this Zergling run by is nice. The Neuroparasites are good as well on the Thors. This is a blunder from ByuN for sure. Very cheap units here for Rogue to be trading out into super expensive ones. And that is the Terran army wiped off the map. Now, he's quickly rebuilding. It's going to take him a couple of production cycles. But not bad. Not bad here for Rogue at all. Rogue did have to smash his piggy bank, though. Rogue is going to have a difficult time remaxing out. But look at the Zergling run by. Planetary Fortress here trying to go in for the mass repair. But even though the Zerglings don't have their +3 melee done yet, it's finishing right now. This is still a remarkably great push here from the Zerg. Pulling a rabbit out of a hat here is Rogue. Pushing ByuN to the absolute limits. I feel like that's the first time we've seen something go right for Rogue this game. Phenomenal fight for him, though. Neural Parasite as well onto the Liberator and then sending it in the direction of the Spore Crawler. Interestingly enough, though, the Spore Crawler died before that fancy trick could actually complete the kill. Massive Zergling run by yet again up north. Yeah, Rogue is a fighter, man. This is good, though. This is really good for ByuN. 26 drones. We have some more Neuroparasites over here. That's nice and all. But 26 drones is a ton. And at this stage in the game, it is so much easier for the Terran to replace lost workers because he can drop mules than it is for Zerg to do so. Denying these expansions as well on the outskirts. There is a new base all the way up north, but that's an easy one to actually get rid of. Another Zergling run by. One of them is going to burrow yet again. Yeah, I think ByuN would have been better off with a couple less command centers. The irony yet again. We really do need some more minerals. He just doesn't have enough. But I mean, he's able to max out. If you look at Rogue's supply count right now, it is dwindling. So despite the fact that Rogue tried really hard this game, I don't think this is the playstyle you go for against ByuN right now. Letting ByuN, yeah, just build... Oh my god. Jeez. That's disgusting. Well, I guess we're gonna get some money again. Shall I open the income tab? Let's have a little peek. It's gonna take a moment here to update. Yeah. I think we're gonna skyrocket ahead for a while. Those mineral fields are gonna disappear real quick. So this is about a 3,000 mineral or so advantage right now per minute in favor of ByuN. Rogue right here is begging for scraps, and in the meantime, look at this, man. On top of his ivory tower, billionaire ByuN over here has ordered a couple more command centers. Okay. Drones trying their absolute best. Look at them. They're even bringing a couple of mineral fields here towards the hatchery that's not yet done. Another circling run by over here, but you know what? These mules are just about to mine out anyways. Look at this, man. 5,000 minerals a minute right now for ByuN. That's ridiculous. ByuN absolutely dominates game number 1, except for that one Zergling run by. But honestly, that one could have been prevented. Beautiful game by ByuN. Pretty much no notes. Other than the Zergling run by and the lack of late game ghosts. I think previously going for Ghost Mech was effectively off the table. Now that ghosts are once more up to 2 supply, or I guess down to 2 supply, it's so much easier to make that transition into the ultimate death ball, but ByuN evidently did not need it. That game wasn't even remarkably close. So what do we do differently this time around? By the way, I was right. You want to have a little peek? 34-minute game. This is a 34-minute game. 34-minute game of Terran versus Zerg on the 300 mineral patch. That's insane. How in the world is this gonna work out right here for Rogue? Obviously, he's been able to take notes from that previous game, and he can take them into this one. Now, this is going to be a barracks first, rather than a CC first. We do get the original Terran music as well, blasting in the background, probably for good reason. It's one of my favorite things, actually, with the new patch. The fact that they added the old school Terran tunes to the multiplayer matches. Very nostalgic. It's still very good, by the way. It's one of the things that Blizzard has always done very well in their games. The music, for all of them, is exceptional. I was recently thinking, how many times have I listened to the StarCraft 2 tracks? Like, historically. Look at this, by the way. 300 mineral CC. Seems so silly. How many times have I listened to all of the StarCraft 2 tunes? Many, many thousands of times, I'm pretty sure. But they're great. They're really good. Another personal favorite of mine is all of the Night Elf music from World of Warcraft. I don't know, again, if that's just nostalgia. My first WoW character was a Night Elf. There's just something about the Ashenville music and all of the starter zones for the Night Elves in general. Ah, it's beautiful, man. It's really nice. It's the type of stuff I listen to when I just want some noise in the background. It's really good. All right, anyways. What do you change as Rogue? I honestly don't know. I'm thinking that if you let the Terran player macro, you probably lose. Obviously, though, you always have to put a little asterisk right next to any of those statements. First off, it's too early. The patch is very new. But effectively, all previous Terran styles that seemed pretty balanced in my mind are now better. Especially all the macro styles with the mass command center approach. So, yeah, I don't think you have to really make a lot of adjustments. And you don't really have to let it cook for that long. You just end up with more cash than you're normally going to have as a Terran player. So, it's pretty straightforward. But, secondly, haven't seen any Serral games yet on this particular patch. And that is always a little caveat. Really, until we get, like, Serral versus Clem, we can't really make any true statements. Now, of course, the last time we had Serral versus Clem was on 5.0.16, but not on the B edition. And that was a clean sweep in favor of the Zerg at the time. So, yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons why we actually had this adjustment. I still find it such a crazy adjustment, though. Like, there's so many things you could change instead. 300 mineral command center. I don't know, dude. Speaking of which, we're already adding more into the main base yet again. I genuinely wonder how many CCs you can get away with. So effectively, right, ByuN has now got 200 more minerals to play with, right? So that's like a full additional barracks here. I think you could probably go, though, one supply depot, potentially quadruple command center. Because look at what Zerk is doing right now. What is Rogue playing against? Rogue thinks he's playing against a macro Terran, so the way he's fighting it is by being insanely greedy himself. Rogue has no way of really pushing. I wonder if you can do like 1, maybe 2 supply depot, 4 command center every game right now. Because if Zerk is playing with this mindset, you can be as greedy as you would like to, and you pretty much just get a supply depot, right? Out of an orbital command as well. So if you view this as like a more expensive, slower to build supply depot that happens to be able to then also give you additional economy, I mean, it doesn't seem like a terrible idea to me. Zergling Scout does manage to slip through the cracks, though. This start base, by the way, is now fully done. Right after Zerg, this is, I believe, the first queen coming out of this hatch. This third command center was done, I think, before the Zerg finished theirs. It's pretty crazy. We have a second factory. No, that's the first factory. Never mind. This is a full bio approach. So, ByuN mixing things up compared to game number 1. I think we're going to see some of the 2 supply ghosts coming out. At least if this game indeed does head in that direction. Because if we play the late game, especially with Terran bio, I think you need ghosts. Here we go, though. Nice little marine timing attack. So this is the type of timing attack that now comes with more marines than in the past. 23 marines is honestly not bad. Zerg does not have a Baneling nest yet. You need like probably like 40 Zerglings against this. There's currently 32. 32 plus queens. It's probably, yeah, it's probably fine. Still kind of scary though, right? He knows they've got Stimpec. But ByuN is just doing a little bit of sightseeing. He's happy to just scare the Zerg into making army and then going back home. Armory. Very early. Third command center. Cheeky little Zergling trying to block it. Not going to happen. Lenny Ling got sniped. And now we go into additional production. Yeah. Even like balance aside. So if we just completely forget about balance for just a moment, making command centers cheaper is gonna reduce the amount of variety in the early game. I can see the logic that Terrans have more money available early on to spend on units, so you can go ahead and then be aggressive with units. But what's pretty much always going to happen is that you just get an additional command center instead. It's kind of like making, I don't know, say Protoss is struggling defending in the early game, and you make photon cannons cheaper. What are they gonna do? They're gonna cannon rush every game, right? Like, it's the same logic. Like, yeah, theoretically, that should make you safer because you can make photon cannons for base defense. But obviously, it's gonna be used as an aggressive tool instead. And it's the same idea right now with the command center. Theoretically, it can increase the variety that Terrans will go for in the early game, but realistically, that's not going to happen. I think because of that alone, balance implications aside, it's an extremely blunt change. Kind of just hit it with a hammer, and we just kind of hope for the best. Command center number 4 added into the mix. Ooh, nice little snipey right there on the creep tumor. Yeah, we're effectively skipping early game entirely now in these games, right? Like, we've had some different strats. But because Rogue knows that his opponent is going to be pretty greedy, his only real answer is greed, because he doesn't want to go all in with like a cheeky roach push that can just lose to a couple Banshees, right? He doesn't know if there's going to be Banshees. He can't scout anymore, because the Overlords are a bit slower, so you just don't really have the info. You kind of have to make that commitment if you want to go for a roach all-in before Terran has to make that sort of commitment. So it's just... Widowmine's over here really good now. Ooh, that's going to be a lot of dead queens. I want to believe Rogue, but I don't like any of this. Here we go. Keep in mind, ByuN is Micro Jackson. Oh, what? Oh, my lord. Never mind. He's Micro Jackson with a broken left ankle. What in the world was that? He accidentally move commanded into the Banelings. Rogue is so back. This is not a hee-hee. This is like a ah. Instead, far, far less appetizing. There's a lot of Marines dying. 43 of them in total. 68 Zerglings. That's in between the two funny numbers. Sorry, millennials. Sorry, Gen Alpha. Sorry, Gen Z. Oh my god. Suddenly it's a disaster. Yeah, you're not supposed to be giving up like 30 Marines for free. That's not great. Alright, Lurker Den right now. This has, at least momentarily, taken the winds out of ByuN's sails, but he's immediately retaliating here with a counterattack. Never mind, no control. Oh my god, ByuN, hey. I think ByuN is taking a little nap all of a sudden. I don't know why. Very uncharacteristic mistakes right there from the Terran, who normally is some of, well, he's got some of the crispiest micro out there. It's very fast. I guess just not paying attention. Accidental move command. Maybe accidentally hitting the mini-map or something along those lines. It happens. It's one of the absolute worst feelings, man. When you're stutter stepping, especially as a Terran player, and you're trying to like stop command or attack command as you back up, and then you accidentally find yourself right-clicking the mini-map, which forces your units to then move command forward. This has happened to every Terran player out there, and it's pain. Like, that was nice. That was really good. Okay. Marines trying their absolute best to denying bases. Rogue, though, is still in a much more comfortable position now than he was earlier on in this game, right? He's going to get Hive done, and he's going into the Lurkers this time around. So since this is a bio approach here, as we have 4 command centers on the production tab, we're going to go into the Fusion Core again. Second starport. Okay. Are we just not going ghosts? Are we just not going to go ghosts? There ain't no way, dude. Okay, I gotta... Ghosts, I haven't really seen them yet, right? But the new version of the Ghost from 3 to 2 supply seems insanely strong to me. Possibly overpowered. So to see ByuN not go Ghost, but instead prioritize Liberators here is insane to me. Oh, we're going Caduceus Reactor even, so we're not trying to make the swap on over. So this is for the Medevac regen, rather than the Liberator ranged. This is the perfect game, though, to be playing Ghosts. I am gonna lose my mind if ByuN refuses to make Ghosts. He's gonna find his hatchery up north. Forces to cancel. Please pick up. What? I guess he didn't have enough space to keep all of the units. No real attempted splits either, though. I love the burrowed Zerglings, by the way, all over the place. Rogue is keeping tabs on the exact army movement of the Terran, just with some burrowed lings poking their little heads out, keeping tabs on what the Terran wants to do. Maybe not as good as a scan, but still pretty solid. Okay, now the Liberators are coming up. But he did not queue Liberator ranged. Important upgrade to not forget about. In the meantime, we have Adrenal Glands. Lurkers are going to get fully upgraded in a moment. 4 command centers to celebrate. Medevac drop into the main base. No control. What? Yo, this is when the StarCraft 2 Zerg conspiracy nuts come out. What are we doing? We're not microing anything. This is a common thing, okay? A common conspiracy that I've heard. ByuN may very well, this is what somebody is going to be hypothesizing here. I don't think that's what's happening, but he may very well be on purpose playing poorly Because he doesn't want to get his race nerfed. Ah, is that what you do? Nah, you don't do that. Nah, that's really stupid. Now, believe it or not, what's actually happening is that professional gamers are human. So, yeah, maybe don't put on your tinfoil hats. Not ideal. But professional gamers are human, and because of that, they do make mistakes from time to time. But it is giving Rogue a free seat back into this game. The jury's not yet out on mech specs. But I believe everybody else, very likely human. How do you do, fellow humans? Have you hit the like button, fellow humans? Have you checked out my Patreon, fellow humans? Yeah, sorry. Bailing roll-by in the meantime over here at the forward planetary. Say goodbye to the planetary. Liberators don't have their ranged upgrades, so they're easy to pick off right now for the Hydralisks. Yo, ByuN actually throwing. Very hard game to throw, but he's trying his best. Yeah, ByuN's actually in a pretty bad spot now. I can't really believe I'm saying this, because he had a flying start in this game. 113 dead Marines is nuts. He's still been trading cost-effectively, though, compared to the Zerg. But obviously, Zerg has been sitting on a very healthy worker count. And Rogue hasn't even really picked up the multitasking much yet, right? Like, he's been very much so playing defensively, and now he's ready to really start moving around. Bailing rollbys, Nidus Worms, multi-pronged aggression. It's something that Rogue is very good at. Ghosts are coming, by the way. Okay. So, real quick rundown on the ghost changes. They're from 3 supply to 2 supply, although previously they were 2 supply, so they've gone from 2 supply to 3 supply back to 2 supply. They've gone from 125 health to 100. Their snipe ability can now no longer be cancelled upon the ghost taking damage. Their base damage output with auto attacks is stronger. And then the steady targeting spell, the snipe ability is 75 energy rather than 50. Did I forget anything? I think that's it. The fact, though, that no damage is going to cause the snipe from being cancelled. So in the past, when the ability was channeling and the ghost took any form of damage, be it in the form of like a... For example, that's one of the reasons that fungal growth deals damage. If you take any form of damage, the ability gets cancelled. No longer the case. They also got a bit more attack range, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways. It's a lot of changes, but the simple fact of the matter is that in this type of situation, they're going to be better. You don't want them to be engaging directly anyways. You do have to micro, though. Nice abductions over here by Zerg. Man, he's tanking with ghosts. Marauder's just kind of sleeping on the job. This is, I don't know. It kind of feels like ByuN is playing Macro Simulator, and he's not really doing the thing that he's known for. ByuN has been single-handedly the reason why Terran units got nerfed in the past, because he was too good at microing them, but so far he's not showing any of that in this particular match. His micro in the previous game was solid, so I don't really know what changed. This one's extremely messy. Okay. Oroka's got money, though. Not a ton of gas in particular, but he's got resources, and with +3 melee finishing up, these guys are going to be maxed out. They're going to do a lot of damage. What are we doing? Ah! Actually losing my mind, ByuN. Here we go again. No SCV pool. Lucky right here, Rogue did not commit to fully killing all the workers, although the SCVs are going back. What in the world? Why did they go back? I guess they wanted to return minerals and then just go back to their previously assigned jobs? ByuN's kind of throwing this. No pressure anymore on the left side of the map anywhere. I think we may be entering one of those states that I think a lot of StarCraft players can relate to, where you are just desperately trying to get the game back to a stable state. And it's so hard, right? Like, once things start going wrong, usually they keep going wrong. This is kind of like a car crash right now. ByuN desperately trying to get things to get back to a normal state, but it's not really happening very well. He's effectively now giving Rogue, like, maybe 70% or so of the map. Okay, this is like his little security blanket over here. Oh, thank God we can make some command centers. Whew, all right, I feel better already. But I really don't know if that's what we should be doing. We need some units inside of the main base. Yep, we do yet again. We also really need units, though, denying the bases over here. There's 3 bases left, right, and center. Command center, no cancel. Planetary fortress, obviously still as expensive as it always has been, because the planetaries now do cost, well, 100 minerals more than they cost in the past, meaning that their new cost is the same as the old cost. Just the cost of the command center itself has been reduced, but this is a phenomenal line of attack here for Rogue yet again. Yeah, Rogue is thinking, yeah, don't mind if I do. I'll be back in a moment. Keep my seat warm, dude. I'll be back. More Hydras, more Zerglings, more Vipers, and I'm assuming more Banelings. Yep. Taking several bases right now at the same time. Nidus Worms in the back constantly to try and deny all of those outer expansions. By the way, against Hydraling Bane, it is one of the very few unit compositions where you don't really want to be playing Ghosts. Because pure Hydraling Bane is probably the main counter to a Ghost-based late game. So for the time being, ByuN really should just be making a lot of Marauders and Zerglings. Or Zerglings? He wishes he could make Zerglings. Marauders and Marines. Maybe some Medivacs, some Liberators, that sort of thing. Kind of the irony. Ghosts are really good against pretty much every late game Zerg unit, though. Be it Lurkers. Have we actually had any Lurkers? Yeah, like 5 of them, okay. One of them available right now, too. But like against Lurkers, against Brute Lords, Ultras, Vipers, Infestors. If the unit composition is that type of stuff, Ghosts are phenomenal. But against this, yeah, it's pretty much all Hydraling Bane with a few Vipers for support. I think a couple of Ghosts is nice. But you really don't want to make too many. You could definitely also add on a bunch of siege tanks. There's many things you can do here. Now, he doesn't have any siege tank upgrades. Oh. Lifting up the orbital commands to create more of a path for the Banelings to get on top of the planetary. One of the choices of all time. Heh? That was a really weird sequence over here. I guess the idea was to get his army closer. This is where I kind of wish we had a heart rate monitor on the players, because I think Rogue is playing at a steady 120. ByuN's probably been freaking out at like 150 the entire time that the late game's been going on for. It's actually insane, man. Very, very sloppy late game so far here for ByuN. Obviously, Rogue here is just catching freebies. He's really not supposed to get any of these good traits, but he keeps getting them. ByuN able to max out still. Look at this. Move commanding with Liberators way too far forward. No movement here on the Bio army. Almost losing a lot more there. Not enough Banelings available, though, for Rogue this time around. Finally, we got a little bit of a counterattack. Hatchery in the bottom left-hand corner does fall. Okay. Are we going to lose another command center? We sure are. No repair, by the way. I think he could have saved it if he repaired, because there weren't that many Banelings. Not enough Zerglings. Hatchery retaken again on the right side. I'm assuming we'll take the bottom left-hand corner in a moment again, too. Changeling inside of the main base just to be a nuisance. Marauder sleeping on the job for just a moment. Widowmine comes through. Bro, what's going on, ByuN? I think what we are witnessing here is a Terran with a very slow death animation. It's like a 10-minute death animation. Takes a while. But really, nothing's going well here for Terran at all. Now we're gonna repair? Okay. I like the Terran Mech game better. It had a lot more punch to it. Really though, ever since the big attack over here on the high ground, like 15 minutes ago, when all of those Marines move commanded into Banelings, this game has been going downhill for ByuN. He's not playing terribly. There's a lot more, well, things I could do poorly if I were in his shoes. But Rogue is gobbling up the whole map. Now notice the gas situation though. Yeah, Rogue is running out of Vespene. He's getting the gases saturated yet again, but he should have done so a while ago. Ah, that's a big deal. That honestly, maybe ByuN's out in this game. It's not something he really has any control over. He doesn't know. But Rogue cannot really afford making Banelings right now. Yep, and this is going to take a few minutes before it really kicks in, right? That new gas income. Backing up yet again through the safety of all the Widow Mines and the Liberation Circles. Not bad. A lot of mining still going on as well on the left side. Hatchery in the far bottom left is going to be retaken once more. Yeah, and since there's not enough gas right now for Rogue, he can't really keep playing this this tug of war with the Banelings. By the way, we're making more command centers. Okay, no council. Nice abductions. Nice abductions. No council on the other command center. 12 SCVs as well to boot in the meantime. There was nothing else going on simultaneously. We need 2 more command centers in the most exposed location imaginable. I don't know why, man. What are we doing, ByuN? ByuN's throwing so hard, guys. I hate being the negative caster, but I think I prefer saying things the way they are over fake hyping, because this is just not good. Alright, finally we get a bit of a move again. No council there. So that's a couple of minerals down the drain as well for the Zerg. This is scary though. A lot of Zerg units moving on over in this direction yet again. We have a ton of Zerglings also ready to go in for the counterattack, it seems, towards the left side of the map. Or maybe they're just here to try and clean up this drop. In the meantime, we let an orbital command burn down. No, not quite. One little Hydra trying its absolute best. That is another CC down. Hatchery also did fall, though. So we've had, well, a lot of them got cancelled as well. So it's not really representative of the total amount, I don't think. We've had so much loss on the side of the Terran. Still, a lot more minerals lost on the side of the Zerg. 4,000 gas also lost. Mostly because of the Banelings. This is where all of the gas has been going. Rogue is just sending it. A new command center needed yet again. We go double planetary. No, we just go single planetary because this one's actually an orbital command now. I think it's gonna get blown to pieces though within another, well, maybe half minute. Maybe not even. Abductions once more. Onto the Liberators. It's Rogue providing freedom here for the Libs. Widow Mines do not really get the detonations they're hoping for. Planetary Fortress obviously cannot be lifted, but the Orbital Command can. This is a much better engagement here for ByuN this time around. Yep. And he's immediately gonna get back to mining. That's the type of fighting we want to see. Only 28 SCVs now remain though. 53 drones in the meantime. So it's 500 gas less per base, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a very large amount of gas that Rogue is ultimately gonna miss out on. Obviously, it's the same as well for ByuN. And that's something I'm really interested in, right? Like, are we gonna play these type of games where it's almost like a bell curve, where we start off with Zerglings and Marines, then we tech all the way up towards Liberators, Ghost versus Lurker, Baneling, and all the rest of it, and then we tech all the way back down again because gas runs out in the ultimate late game? Do we start with Marines versus Zerglings, and do we end with Marines versus Zerglings? If that's how the late game is going to be in this matchup, I think it's super sick. We're actually running out of, well, resources altogether. I think the gold base is the main one we're going to be competing over here within a couple minutes time. Who gets to mine out the final minerals on the map? Honestly, the person that gets to mine it out is probably the victor. We really need to be saturating the gas. I'm a little bit surprised he still hasn't bought it. There we go. Obviously, there's a lot of other things to manage as well. ByuN suddenly really stepping up again, though. I think he's managed to get his blood pressure under control or something. I don't really know. maybe he finished his coffee, man. Maybe the caffeine kicked in. Because these last few minutes have been so much better for Terran than the second half of the game overall. That's another planetary dying, but honestly, at this point, I don't think it's really worth rebuilding over here very much. There's only a couple mineral fields really remaining. Yeah, I think this is where we need to be setting our sights to next. Alternatively, you could go after this one, but it's a difficult one to really play into. Denying it is big, though. Even if you can't really kill it, it's still very nice to deny. Beautiful game now. ByuN's APM, by the way, has been going up. We're at 477 average actions per minute. Let's have a look at what the Terran is paying attention to whilst playing this game. Keep in mind, this is how zoomed in the players are, and there's like a giant 1/3 of the screen at the bottom that's overtaken by interface. Sometimes you easily forget when you're just watching games because I, well, tend to zoom out a lot. Beautiful engagement here yet again for ByuN, man. His supply count may not be great, but he's trying his absolute best to squeeze out as much juice as possible, and he will be able to kill the base right over there on the right side of the map. Here's the Zerg reinforcement showing up. Rogue also, though, running out of cash. Let's go to his first-person view. Both players looking at the exact same thing at the exact same time. Looks like we had a couple of units going back into the natural expansion. I think that probably was a queen trying to go in for an inject or something along those lines. A lot of the units are running low. Widow Mines dealing friendly fire as well there to the Terran army. Hatchery still lives. I thought ByuN was certainly going to be able to secure the kill. Look at the frantic scrolling, though. Okay, I'll take control of the camera again. But Rogue definitely feeling the heat now. Here's the Terran army. We just need to kill the hatch. If we can kill the hatch, that would be a huge deal. Okay. You're just gonna sneeze on it, ByuN. Ha-choo! Gotta go! I would love to see a couple infestors added into the mix. I know it's expensive right now for Rogue. But since we are indeed moving... Yeah. Since we are indeed moving back down... We move away from Liberators and Ghosts to Marines and Marauders. We're moving away from Hydras to mostly just Zerglings again. This is where the Spellcasters can be extremely potent. Nice snipe right there on the Viper. Marines still getting in a lot of damage. Good target firing as well onto the Banelings. ByuN trying his absolute best. This game did not really go according to plan at all, but ultimately the only thing that matters is the end result. More Banelings showing up. Oh. ByuN. Now performing the way we always like to see him perform. And look at this. Cheeky little base. Taken over here in the bottom left-hand corner. Creep is going to scout it in a moment, but for the time being, ByuN gets to enjoy some golden mineral fields. There's an infestor. There's an infestor. There's an infestor! Massively painful. Massively painful. ByuN's army just ran out. Honestly, now his lifeline is an unprotected base in the bottom left. Rogue sees it. Look at the minimap vision here for the Zerg in general. Kind of feels like he can see everything. No scans available for the Zerg, of course, but still, the creep provides a lot of vision and, well, also movement speed. So those Zerglings have zapped around the map. They're going to be able to force the lift off on this orbital. We're sending the workers back really early, man. I don't really know if I like this. It's mostly mules, I guess. They're gonna run out anyways. Hatchery actually got some transfusions down, and that's why Rogue is still able to mine. At this point, ByuN is getting 0 minerals a minute. ByuN is completely running broke. Here we go. ByuN has sent in a little hit squad. Medevac is gonna get targeted. Hatchery finally falls. I think he just rebuilt it immediately. Yeah. Okay, I think the only thing Rogue really needs to do is deny this base. I don't know if he realizes it. I don't know if he recognizes that this is the only final mining base here for the Terran, and that this is the only income that we have. But either way, Oh, he smashed his piggy bank. He's going 6 lurkers. Bro, these lurkers are insane. Remember how he rushed up towards Hive to get lurkers out and then never really made lurkers this game? Apparently, nearly 35 minutes into the match is when they are gonna be useful. We've got a Hydraling lurker type of army here. Good EMP by the Terran, but what in the world do you do against lurkers? Yeah, you don't do anything. You don't do anything. You sent your units into it? I don't know about that one. GG gets cold. Rogue gets a point on the board. Okay. And that means it all comes down to this. Final game of this best of 3 series takes place on Rainfall. Not the best game across the board, especially for Terran. Maybe I'm being a little overly critical, and I'll be the first to admit that, but I guess we just sort of have come to expect a certain level of micro, especially from ByuN. I mean, he has set the standard himself, and I'm sure if you were to ask him, that was not his finest micro performance. He would certainly agree. Yeah. Struggling a little bit, and ultimately paying the price. No CC first here on Rainfall. Game number 1 was really clean though. I really thought that ByuN just dominated game number 1. It's probably the cleanest example of a standard macro game in ZVT on the new patch. At least with Terran Mech. I don't know about Terran Mech. I don't really know exactly how good it's going to be in the long run. But it certainly seemed to be quite potent yet again. I wouldn't mind seeing Rogue maybe play some Muta-based armies. Mutaling Bane would be awesome. We've seen quite a few Muta games over the last couple of weeks. Because of the changes made to the Mutalisks, and then on the previous patch as well to the Spire, and then obviously the build time and all the rest of it. It's just been a much easier transition to make. I guess Rogue is not a very big Muta fan in general. I say that. I feel like Rogue kind of plays whatever he feels like is the correct choice. He's a very talented Zerg player, at least. Like, he's not just a one-trick pony. He's going to be able to play a little bit of everything. But I wouldn't mind seeing him experiment with that a little bit more, because at the very least, you can keep control on the Terran. I don't know if it's any good. That's my main concern, I suppose. Like, I don't really know exactly how good that type of approach truly is. Command center on the low ground. No SCV scout leading the Reaper. Technically a little bit risky. If there was a spawning pool first, for example, for Rogue, pool into hatch, for example, you could run into some problems here. I say that. Maybe pool into hatch is also nerfed, because the command center now starts up like 6-7 seconds earlier, because the mineral cost has been reduced by 100, right? You basically just have to pay for the cost that the extra SCVs in the main base take to mine it, which I think is about, unironically, 6-7 seconds. Drone snipe over here, by the way, on the Reaper. That's messy. It's just the amount of time that it takes to mine the minerals, okay? Calm down, Gen Alpha. Calm down. Put your hand gestures away. Sorry for those of you that are watching this with kids. Anyways, so I wonder if that means that a pool first build would be... Nah, I think you could still play it. I think you could still go for a pool first. Wow, really? We really hate Otto, huh? Lifting up the racks to secure the kill on the Overlord is kind of nuts to me. I guess we want to save up money now for a third CC anyways. Do we? I don't know. This is a very low command center game so far. I'm a little bit surprised. Like a straight 1-1-1. It's been popular on 5.0.16, but not since the CC patch. Really not since the previous edition of the patch either. 5.0.16a, I guess, is what we now dub it in hindsight. Anyways. I have actually had quite a few people saying that they've watched this on the living room television. I've had some parents reaching out to me and saying that they like it, that I don't really swear in my casts, Because that means they can watch it in the videos. Or they can watch it in the living room with their kids. You know, they don't have to fucking worry about me dropping... Oh! Okay, well... I ruined that one, I suppose. Anyways. It's quick Benchy Cloak. Hellion Benchy it is. Straight Hellion Benchy, though. It's gonna give ByuN a lot of early game control. I don't know if it's a good idea. I mean, it's fine, right? Like, this is what we saw Terran players do. This is what we, for example, saw Clem do against Zero a lot in the Home Story Cup finals. He really liked the Hellion Benchy build. But we go for an incredibly delayed third command center. When do you, by the way, have to start altering your speech, if at all, around kids? Asking for a friend? Could I be the one that teaches Bella all the swear words? Like, she could be the coolest kid in elementary school, you know? How about that? Maybe that's just a step up in life. I'm always a fan of this. The extra Spore Crawler early on. Against like a straight 1-1-1 on 2 CCs. So not the triple command center variant. I think the extra Spore Crawler in between the bases is nice. Raven is already going out. Why is it a Raven? Wait a second. What? Raven? Raven. Yo, ByuN may be drunk. What's going on? A Raven? Raven. Spore Crawler actually makes it kind of difficult. So the idea, I guess, behind the Raven is to go and snipe creep tumors. But basically, you're already saying, yo, I'm not going to deal any eco damage with this. So now we're playing a 2cc build against a normal Zerg opener. Rogue has been preparing as if it's a Benchy build, but now that he realizes that's not the case, he's going to start pumping out workers. It's been fine up until this point for ByuN, but I feel like showing the Raven is pretty much giving Rogue a free pass to go straight to, well, as many drones as he would like. There will be a follow-up push, I guess, as well with Marines, but, I mean, we have Stimpack, we're going to get combat shields, but it's still a while away. The supply block here is kind of nice, I suppose. Okay, we'll be able to get some creep tumors without scanning now, because the Raven itself is a detector. +2, +1. I think Ro can just go Hydraling Bane and defend. I think this is ByuN mostly experimenting with the patch, though. I don't like it. It's kind of like we have all these good things on the newest version of the patch, and we don't use any of it. The only thing ByuN has really gotten out of it is 2 more Marines than he normally would because of the 100 minerals that he saved. But because we go Raven first, we end up in a situation where Zerg is just kind of able to do whatever they like. That is a stim from the other side of the freaking planet, dude. That's gonna run out by the time he starts hitting the hedge. Zerg can run by attempted, but this is a 2cc build. Rogue right now realizes it. This is a 2-base all-in right here for ByuN. Giving up the 4th hatchery is whatever, man. Rogue does not need 4 bases. He needs like 2.5 in order to counter this type of attack. So this is very good here for Rogue, cleverly giving up on it, recognizing indeed that this is not a 3cc build. He's rebuilding a hatchery in the far upper right just in case, because he can't have full knowledge of what Terran's going for. But ByuN is going back right now through the middle of the map, pretending like that was a success. I don't think that was enough at all. That was not even remotely enough. We're still dealing with a Zerg who's got 50% more income compared to the Terran. That's a lot. You're just gonna run out of steam here in several minutes' time. Now there's Baneling speed. Soon we're gonna have 2 more upgrades kicking in. This is proper Hydraling Bane. You don't need to fight this Rogue. There's 0 reason to push in. ByuN would win if Zerg decides to fight this. But why in the world would Rogue fight this? There's no point. We're fighting over nothing. Even this hatchery does not need to be saved. ByuN doesn't know of it. Okay, now he's trying to see if he can tighten the noose. And this will force a trigger here on the Zerg. He's got a lot of army available right now, though. But does ByuN have enough? Banelings, not quite connecting here. Not quite connecting here. Is there enough for ByuN to break through this in the end? Baneling coming out as well from the bottom of the map. Hydras themselves, though, are so tanky now with the +2 armor. There's only a single attack upgrade on the Marines. And that is what is ultimately one of the deciding factors here in that particular fight. 2 more upgrades for Rogue versus only a +1 attack for ByuN. He gets another console in the hatchery over here on the left. But again, no drones were harmed in any of this. So, what do we do now, ByuN? We go +1 mech upgrades. Okay. I'm a little bit afraid what's going to truly happen in this game is that ByuN is going to fizzle out, and Rogue is going to overwhelm this Terran army. Rogue doesn't really have to do very much. All he needs to do is sit here and mine. Engage, of course, whenever he needs to. Again, yep, it's a decent fight because banelings are not connecting. Terran army's not stimmed. Hello. We got a stim, bro. There we go. Finally, we stim. But the Hydras themselves do just fine, man. I guess it helps that there's about as many Hydras as there are Marines. ByuN did not stim for half of that engagement. Now, really, all that remains is a 16 Marine drop. I don't know, man. You know what I'm a little bit worried for? This is now looking like it's going to be a Rogue victory, right? I think a lot of people are going to look at this, and are going to use this particular series as proof that the 300 Command Center situation is totally fine. Because look, Terran's still losing. But I think you gotta put a little asterisk right next to it. And the asterisk is the literal games. I've seen that argument a lot over the years, man. Where people are like, yo, look at these results. Doesn't this prove that Terran's underpowered, or Zerg is underpowered, or Protoss is too weak? Whatever, right? But then if you look at the actual games, that's not really what happened. What's this? We had a medevac nearby. We're just letting the siege tank die? Quadruple medevac drop headed into the main base. Overlord scouted from a mile away. Zerg is gonna intercept this with both Spore Crawlers as well as Hydraling Bane. Extremely risky jump right here by ByuN. My god. Dude, what happened to the ByuN that we had in game 1? He was playing so nicely. That was so clean. I don't think I really caught him making any mistakes in the first map of this best of 3, but right now we're just kind of YOLOing around. He seems kind of frustrated. Yeah. So this, by the way, is the old main base. We still have not made a worker in about 8 minutes. Natural expansion is gonna run out, so I guess we can be nomadic and move the CC over here towards the left. Are we just sightseeing here? Look at Rogue, by the way. I think what's going on in this game is that ByuN is kind of checked out like 6 minutes ago. Ever since that first failed attack, and he's waiting for Rogue to come and punch him out. But Rogue is not really committing to anything. Rogue is just chilling on creep, having a good time, macroing his way up. Going lurkers right now against this type of army is crazy. It's pure Marine, man. ByuN can barely afford a siege tank now. Oh, we're overstimming. Look at it. He just mass stimmed his own units there, so that I guess everything would get killed a little bit sooner. So, this series ends with a 2-1 win for Rogue. I honestly did not expect it, especially after game 1. It seemed like game 1 was so dominant for Terran, and then game 2, it's like ByuN just stopped microing his units after the first major engagement, and then in game 3, we decided to just open up a 2-base build and then never add another command center into the mix. This type of strategy that we saw in game number 3 that was solved in probably about 2011, right? There's a reason that we don't really see those builds at the highest level anymore. It's because everybody's so comfortable playing macro games. Yeah, I don't really see why you would give that a shot. Nothing that has recently been buffed, other than, I guess, the 100 minerals that he saved on the command center, but nothing that ByuN went for in this game, in this final game, is stronger on dispatch than it ever has been over the last, I want to say, 15 years.